Hey there. So, what if you could extend your outdoor gardening season 6 to 8 weeks past your last frost date? I live in Zone 3, Saskatchewan, Canada, and I garden outdoors all summer long. And usually, about this time, mid August, we're starting to kind of wind down the garden and planning on, closing things out for the season. But this year, I'm trying something different. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do some cold frame gardening and extend my gardening season way past my last frost date, hopefully into, late October. And then from there, I'm going to show you my techniques that I have planned to do winter gardening, which means I'm going to keep that garden alive in my cold frame, even into those cold winter months, November, December. So stick around. I'm going to show you how I got it set up, how to do fall gardening, winter gardening. Let's get started. So again, my name is Tracy and I live on the prairies in Saskatchewan, Canada. Welcome to my channel. So if you haven't joined my channel before, I like to share cold climate gardening techniques. I live in a growing zone 3 where the growing season outdoors is about 110 days from that last frost date to the first frost date, which is coming up in mid-September. So if you're thinking about trying the fall gardening like I am, or maybe you're already into it, first thing you need to think about is timing and getting some of those cool weather type crops planted early to mid-August. So to figure out the best time to get those started, you want to figure out when your first frost date is in your growing zone. So for me here in Saskatchewan, it is about mid-September. So counting back 6 to 8 weeks is when you want to start getting those fall garden plants started. So we've already kind of passed that already. Mid to early August is when you want to start planting those crops that you're going to be growing into the fall. So if you're in growing zones 4, 5, 6, anywhere where you're going to be having those cold nighttime temperatures coming soon, check out what your last frost date is, count 6 to 8 weeks back. That is when you want to get started on those fall garden plants. And the reason you want to get those crops going now, 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date, is because you want to be able to try and get them growing, get them to maturity before we hit those Persephone months, which is usually around early November when the amount of sunlight hours in the day drop below 10 hours. That's when things typically stop growing. So you want to be able to get those plants to maturity before that time. And by doing that, you are going to be using hoop houses, cold frames, unheated greenhouse, different techniques that I'm going to go through with you here to help keep those plants protected in the cold evenings. Let them keep growing in the daytime when the sun is still over that 10-hour per day period. Get them to maturity. And then from there, that's when the winter gardening starts. That's when you are going to try to protect those mature plants in a cold frame, an insulated hoop house, using row covers, your unheated greenhouse, to keep those mature plants from freezing and withstanding those cold nighttime temperatures so that you can continue to harvest off them well into the winter months. So this is going to be a challenge for me here in zone 3 because by the end of October, November, we have, freezing temperatures all day long. So what are the best plants to do in this method? You can't do tender things like tomatoes, cucumbers. Those just won't be able to survive those fluctuations at night into cold temperatures. You want to get those cool weather type plants that will sustain, that freezing and thawing a little bit. That would be your greens, like your leafy greens, kale, spinach, Asian greens, all sorts of different lettuces work well in this method. And also root crops like carrots, beets, turnips, radishes. All those are good ones to try in this method. So location is also very important for where you're going to set this up because you want to be able to access it once it gets cold, once it starts snowing. So for myself, going out to my regular garden spot, in the winter months is not ideal. It's, a bit of a distance from the house. If it snows early, which it can happen, end of October into November, access to that garden space, to my cold frames or hoop houses or whatever type of system, you want to make sure that you can get to them easily, that you can still water them, and that you can keep them as protected as possible. So again, that is why I have chosen the south side of my house here. It's against my garage wall. My garage is heated, so maybe there'll be a little bit of heat coming through. This particular cold frame that I have here does not have an open bottom in it, like a typical cold frame. So I'm actually going to be using containers, growing my root crops, my leafy greens in containers, getting them going, getting them to maturity outside in this sunny spot. And once those temperatures start to drop at night, I will be putting them into my cold frame and opening it up during the day, shutting it at night, just kind of keeping track. So also inside my cold frame here, you'll see that I have some thermometers so that I can make sure they don't get too hot during the day. I have right now in the middle of August, obviously it's too hot to be putting anything into a cold frame. With the door shut here on this and the sun shining through the glass, it can get like over 100 degrees or 30 some degrees Celsius inside this cold frame right now. So for now, I'm just growing everything outside just like normal during these nice warm summer days, getting them going. So if you plan on using some of your grow boxes in your garden space or your garden beds or containers that already have, your summer vegetables in them right now, it's really hard to get things started, obviously, because you don't have the space. So it is recommended if you're going to be doing like lettuces or kales, leafy greens, to get them started using, grow lights indoors in your seedlings trays, just like you would be doing in the springtime. You could start those right now, get them going, and then by the end of August, early September, when the space starts opening up in spots that you want to grow your fall garden in, you can easily transplant those starts into there and then start building your hoop houses or your protective covers from there. It's also a good idea because it can be still quite hot in some of our zones here during the summer. So trying to start little tender seedlings outdoors can be hard because it is just too hot. I've been using burlap over top of my carrots, beets, and that has worked really well to help with that germination, keeping that moisture in, avoiding that, hot sun drying out that soil right away. And I've got a good start on my carrots, beets, kale, and spinach going right now. So again, what to plant: leafy greens, root crops, herbs, all those work well in this method. So take a time to go through your seeds, figure out, when you should be planting them. It's probably right around now. Look at the maturity dates on those seeds. Don't pick anything that has a long maturity date. I picked carrots that are fast growing at that 50 to 55 day maturity, beets that are fast growing, spinach and kale seem to have those shorter growing times, lettuces. That's why those are great for this method. So once you got your seeds figured out what you want to plant, then it's just about getting that soil prepped. So if you're going to be using some garden beds that you've been planting in all summer, make sure you replenish them a little bit with some compost, some aged manure, just to build up that fertility in the soil again, because it's been working hard all summer long, and you want those little plants to have a good start in that new soil. So refresh your soil. If you're using containers like I am, I made up a mix of aged manure with some peat moss and vermiculite, same kind of mixture that I use in my garden beds in the spring and in my containers in the spring, and that's what I'm using to start mine in. Because my root crops will be growing the whole time in these containers, I want them to have the best soil going through the whole process. So when those cold night temperatures start coming, you want to start doubling up your protection. That's when you start using your cold frames or your hoop houses. Get some of that fabric row cover to protect those plants at night. Remove it during the day so that they can still get all the value out of those long sunny days. Other things you can do to keep them warm at night is mulching around the plants. You got some straw, some grass, dry leaves, because fall is coming, so we're going to have lots of leaves on the ground. That works as great mulch and insulation around your plants to keep them cozy at night and still be able to get the benefit of the sunlight during the day. So I'll just give you a little tour of my cold frame here. So this is not really a typical cold frame as we would see mostly on the internet, on YouTube. This isn't quite what I had asked for, but Normally, a cold frame is just a box framed with, repurposed wood, usually repurposed glass like this here. This is a patio door from our house that we had to replace, so that worked great for the top. And normally you have no bottom in the bottom of a cold frame so that you can set it right on the soil and plant directly into it. That's kind of the vision that I had with this when I asked my friend, who's a carpenter guy, to build it. So I gave him my door and I gave him some scrap lumber. He came back with this amazing insulated greenhouse, basically. So it's got this R7.5 insulation on the sides and on the bottom. So that's why I'm doing containers. So I'll just give you kind of a visual of everything that's going to be going in here. Once it gets cold at night, I will be putting them inside here. Some of the things that I'm going to do to try and keep it insulated is I have a lot of straw, so I can insulate the bottom with some straw, set the containers in there. This is some of the row cover that I was talking about that I highly recommend if you're going to be doing fall gardening, winter gardening. It is a brand that was recommended to me. You can get this off of Amazon. I'll leave the link below. So this is a thicker row cover. It's kind of a heavy duty. So make sure when you're looking at it online that you pick something that is more heavy duty. So this doesn't let in as much light, but it is a good insulator. And there's a whole bunch here. This will be great for covering crops in the spring. I will maybe use it as an insulator over top of my plants as needed. So that's kind of my plan, my setup. Hoop houses aren't really the best option for us here in colder growing zones because they're a little harder to keep insulated. So that's why I think a cold frame is probably your best option if you're in a colder zone like I am. So as far as a cold frame, again, this is a little bit extravagant. You don't need to have it insulated. If you can, that's great. But if not, you can use stuff like straw and mulch and these row covers to help insulate those plants when it gets really cold. So once those plants start reaching maturity, if you're able to keep them warm at night, you should be able to start enjoying some of the harvest off of them, into the end of September, end of October, when they're reaching that maturity date. So once we hit those Persephone months in November and the days of sunlight are 10 hours or less, those plants are not going to continue to grow. So the whole process now is to just kind of keep those plants alive so that you can continue to harvest off of them into the winter months. So this is when you really got to make sure they're protected from frost and from freezing, using your cold frame, insulating with row covers, covering up with hoop houses that you have, created with using the row covers or some other plastic, and hopefully you can continue harvesting into those winter months. So if this new method that I'm trying out sounds exciting to you, I hope that you will give it a try. And also I just want to invite you to join my community, Gardeners Growing Together, which is located on the school platform. I will put the link down in the description box below. This is a great little community where we are members from all over the world, cold climate gardeners, hot climate gardeners even are in there, and we are sharing tips, sharing ideas, answering each other's questions, and just growing together. So I really would love to see you in that community. Again, the link is in the description box below. So don't pack up your garden too soon, because with the right timing, protection, you can be harvesting your garden well past that last frost date. So I hope you enjoyed watching my video on how I am going to be fall and winter gardening in a cold climate. If you are into this kind of gardening, please let us know in the comments. Hit that like button and we will see you on the next video.